Welcome to my channel, Acids and Gases. So I have a batch of ram fingers here that we're going to be processing today. So I'm going to get them weighed up and into a beaker. So it looks like we're at 771 grams. Get this into the beaker, we'll get it over into the hood and start processing. We'll put the beaker up on the hot plate and line up our fume scrubber to change out to get a shorter tube here. Make sure everything's lined up to go so that as we start producing fumes we get them scrubbed out. All right, that looks good. So we'll go ahead and put in some distilled water about to the top of the level of the fingers. And then we'll add 500 milliliters of nitric acid to dissolve the base metals. The foils on the fingers are layered. You have copper, you have nickel, and you have the gold. It's 95% copper and nickel. And so 500 milliliters of nitric should give us just about enough to dissolve all of those metals, as well as some of the copper traces that are in the boards, that we get rid of all the base metals before we go to the next step. From here, we'll let the nitric dissolve the metals until the reaction stops. We'll add some more nitric if needed so that we're sure we get everything out of there. It's really important since we're going to be dissolving the gold with the fingers. Okay, our reaction is starting to slow down. We're not getting any fumes generating anymore, they're just clearing out. I think we're ready for the next step. So we're going to pull our beaker off of the heat. We've let it cool. The goal here is to decant off the spent nitric. Some foils will come over with it. We're going to filter those out, get those back into the recovery. But we're going to decant this off. We're going to do several washes with distilled water to clear out as much of the nitric as we can before we move on. Use distilled water because there's gold foils in there. Tap water has chlorine in it. Could make a weak aqua regia, which could dissolve some more gold, so we'll want to be sure that we stick with distilled. So we're going to go ahead and filter this initial decant of nitric acid, get some room in the beaker so that we have some place to put our washes, and we'll filter that as well right back through the same filter, so we collect all the foils that came over in the same place. So that's filtered. We're going to go ahead and just set the filter aside here so we can reuse it in a few minutes, and we'll start doing a number of distilled water washes on the ram sticks themselves until what's coming out when we decant off each wash is about as clear as it can be. So that's looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and set this back up on the burner, and we will filter off this wash through this filter. We're going to spray the filter down and get most of the color out of there, and then we'll go ahead and transfer that also to a small beaker for processing those foils as well. So filtering is complete. We've rinsed most of the color out of the filter. You can see a number of foils in there. It's really not that much, but it's certainly enough worth recovering. We'll get this all taken apart and move on to recovering the gold with aqua regia. So we'll go ahead and pull this filter out. We'll stick it in a small beaker and we'll dissolve it in there. The aqua regia will dissolve the gold as well as the filter itself. And we'll process that in the little beaker. We'll leave the fingers here in the big beaker. So we'll pull it down, kind of rinse everything down. Set aside our decanted spent nitric. And arrange this and go ahead and put my fancy new piece of Corningware up on the heat. Turn the heat on. And we're going to add hydrochloric acid to both beakers. Just a little bit in the small one. Quite a bit more. Just empty out this jug into the big one. So we'll go ahead now and put some concentrated nitric acid into each of the beakers. Don't expect much into the small beaker here. There's not that many foils, so I'm just going to give it about 1.5 milliliters. I'm going to add probably 4, maybe 6 milliliters into the big one here. That's where we think the bulk of the gold is. All right, now we're just going to put a couple of drops of concentrated sulfuric acid into each of these. That will precipitate any lead out when we filter our solutions, keep it from carrying over into further steps. Right, so it looks like all of our gold foils have gone into solution. So we're going to go ahead and rinse this off, and we're going to take it off the heat, and we're going to decant the aqua, right now what is chloroauric acid, off the fingers. We're going to do several rinses again to get all of the gold solution out of the beaker. So after several washes, it appears we've got all the solution out, but we're going to do a quick stannous chloride test on what's in here. Make sure there's no gold still in the fingers. Our test shows negative, so we have got all the gold solution out of the fingers. Looking at the solution we pulled out, same test, we can see a definite stain there where we have gold in the solution. I would take our other beaker here. We're just going to combine these so that we can work from one set here for filtering and then dropping the gold. So we've got our filter set up. We'll take our beaker of gold solution, go ahead and filter it through, get all the solids and junk out of there. Filtering's done. You can see in the filter here just how much we removed from that solution. It's much lighter, much clearer. We'll go ahead and transfer that back into a clean beaker, and we'll be ready to recover our gold. Here's our gold solution. We're going to use SMB, stump out, get it at Home Depot. Just going to add a teaspoon and then see where we are. We get a lot of foaming. It's a fairly dilute solution, so we're just going to cover that and let it settle. Right, it's settled a bit. We're going to give it a status test. See if we still have golds in solution. And test is negative. We're seeing no change at all. So all the gold is precipitated out. So we're going to go ahead and just set this up out of the way and let it settle some more. Right, our solution is pretty much settled. It appears to be a really fine precipitate. So we're going to go ahead and just gravity filter everything out, capture all of the gold in the filters that we can then do some refining on. You see what we got there, most of it. Spray that down just a little bit. One thing you notice when we're spraying it down here is that we start to see some gold come through. It's super fine. It's actually coming through the filter in some cases. Probably a rookie mistake on my part. I should have reduced the solution down. I think the dilute solution, sometimes it doesn't allow the gold to clump together as much as we'd like. So we're going to transfer the filter into a clean beaker. You can see we have some stuff coming through that, the gold came through. It's on the thing here. So we'll spray that in down into the beaker, and we're going to filter that off again. Try to capture it as well. The next thing we look at with the precipitate being so fine is when we filtered this off. First, I'm just going to pour this through and let it filter through where we have this. You can see we've captured that. So we're going to just throw that in to our processing here as we go forward. For now, I'm just going to set it up out of the way. And we can look at this, and you can see that a reasonable amount of gold passed through the filter back into this flask as well. I'm going to decant off the clear liquid. It's settled down the bottom pretty good. And we're going to dissolve an aqua regia. We're going to dissolve this gold in this flask, directly in the flask. So we'll start the first refine of the recovered gold. Put some hydrochloric acid into this flask. And I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of drops of nitric acid in here to form aqua regia. Stir that around a little bit. We'll grab our beaker with the other filter in it, put this up on the heat. Get this little catch one here. I'm going to go ahead and add that little bit that had come down in here. I'm just going to dump this into here and dissolve it all together. So fold that up, get it in there. The aqua regia, again, will dissolve the paper just fine. And then we can filter out the pulp afterwards. So a little bit of hydrochloric acid. I'm going to go ahead and give it covered up, put it up on the heat. Add our nitric acid. And let the aqua regia do its thing. So all of our gold is dissolved. We've combined the solutions. We're going to let this cool a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and rinse it down and add some ice cubes. I'm not worried about silver chloride in this particular solution, but this will at least cool the solution down enough that we don't have any issues with it breaking through the filter to move the process along. So we're going to go ahead and set our filter process, get the filter paper in there, hook up it to the vacuum pump, get a little water to get the seal, and go ahead and put our solution in there and let it filter through the first time. It should take out a lot of the paper pulp. You can see it in there, so let's get it all in there. So first filtration is complete. Going to go ahead and set our filter aside. You can see all that pulp and stuff in there. Set that aside. We're going to go back through the filter again because you can see, look at that. That is a very cloudy solution. We want it to be pretty much crystal clear before we drop the gold out of it. So set the filter back up and pour the solution right back through the same filter. Hopefully we get a nice clear solution. Not, we'll keep going until we do. So we have a pretty clear solution now. Pull it out. You can see that's not the same filter paper as before. I had filter paper failure. Had to switch it out, do a couple more filtrations, but we got a decently clear solution. We get it out of the flask into a beaker here, and we'll move on to dropping our gold. So again, we're going to put this up here, grabbing our stump out, SMB. Going to put in a teaspoon to start. Give that a chance to react. And we will see that color change that tells us the gold is coming out of solution. Do a quick Stannous test to see if we've got it all. So we can see that there is still a faint positive down at the bottom there. So we'll go ahead and put a little more SMB in there and make sure we have all of the gold precipitated. All right, now that our gold is precipitated, I let it sit on the heat, which helps it settle fairly quickly. We're going to go ahead and decant off the waste solution into our temporary stock pot, and we'll move on to washing, drying, and weighing. So compared to the first drop we did, this gold, you can see, is much better clumped together, much easier to work with. Let's get a little rinse with distilled water here. And for washing, we're going to decant this off. Then I'm going to switch this over to a smaller beaker, and we'll do a hydrochloric acid boil. Great. Going to add some hydrochloric acid. Doesn't take much, 50 milliliters or so. Put it up on the heat, let it boil, pull out any impurities that may be in there. We're not getting a lot of color in that acid as it's boiling, so that says our gold is probably in pretty good shape. So the hydrochloric boil has been going for about 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and pull it off the heat here and decant off the acid. I'm going to follow that with several boiling water washes to clear all the acid off. And then we'll go ahead and dry the gold and weigh it up. So our gold is dry. I'm going to go ahead and get the scale here. I'm going to take my beaker of gold powder that we'll be refining all together later, tear it out, and we'll put this in here and see what we got. So it looks like we're coming in right about 2.72 grams. A little lower than I'm used to for fingers, for this many fingers, but every batch is different. And so that will conclude this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please check out my other videos. Feel free to comment, they're always welcome, as well as like and subscribe. Thank you.